Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whenever you're tuning in, you're live with Chisa Penix Brown. I'm the Chief Curator at Give It to the People, and we do Give It to the People live to focus on mental wealth for women-owned businesses and BIPOC businesses, helping you get your mind and your money right.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day in Zamunda / wherever I'm at today. And so I want to just say hi to you because it's Women's History Month. And, you know, the biggest thing this month, I wanted to make sure that we had some powerhouse women on. So, you know, we are just kicking this month off with some awesome women that do wonderful things in the community for their businesses, for their organizations, and people that can help benefit you. So I don't want to go into a long spiel, but I'm going to tell you what we do. So I'm Chisa Penix Brown. I'm the Chief Curator at Give It to the People, which is a mental wealth company. So we focus on getting your mind right and your money right. We do a bunch of different curated conferences so that we can bring all of the knowledge and expertise to you. And, you know, we help people with their content, and we also teach training classes. This particular thing that we're doing here is Give It to the People Live, which is a podcast. And so we show it to you live on the screen, and then we also take it and we put it into an audio podcast as well, so that this way, if you couldn't watch it live, it is okay because you can always go back and listen to the podcast. And so today our guest is coming up really quickly, Jalisha, and she is from a wonderful company called Thread Capital. And so I want her to just go ahead and introduce herself because she's doing such great things in the community.
Thank you, Chisa, for having me today. So once again, I'm Jalisha Richmond. I'm the Director of Lending and Client Supports at Thread Capital. We are a nonprofit based in Raleigh, but we cover the entire North Carolina. We provide small business loans for anyone looking to start or expand a business in North Carolina. Those loans can range anywhere from $500 up to $100,000, just depending on the size and use of your business. We'll kind of go into more of the qualifications later. But yeah, definitely excited to be here.
Definitely. And so that's already, we just have to start right there because I think the biggest thing that you said was actually the smallest thing. You said loans of $500 on up, right? Yeah. And you do not find traditional banks trying to give you $500, right? You can't, I mean, you might not even be able to ask a family member for $500, right? So when you look at saying something like that, how impactful is it that you're able to make basically these micro loans to people?
Yeah, so that's our overall goal, is to fill the gaps created by traditional lending, being able to help our small business owners wherever they are. A lot of times if you go to a bank and you may need a $500 loan, their minimum amount might be $1,500. And you're like, I don't need that much capital. So we want to help our small businesses and not over leverage them, giving them what they need to help them grow and maintain their business. So we understand that sometimes $500 is what's needed. We've had clients that needed that amount and we're able to fill that gap. Mm-hmm. So it's very impactful.
Yeah. And then with something like that, what's the time frame to pay back, you know, a loan typically?
Yeah, so our max loan term is 6 years. For a $500 loan, we will not term it out over 6 years. A $500 loan, we typically do less than a year. But basically what we look for is what the business can cash flow to make sure that it is sustainable for you. We typically do like our working capital loans. So those loans that are just cash to the borrower, up to 24 months, depending on the size of the loan. But our biggest thing is making sure that we're not over leveraging the small business owner or the business, and they can maintain themselves as well as this business loan.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at that and you just talk about not being over leveraged and you talk about looking at the cash flow statements, I think a lot of times when people start business, they're not necessarily familiar with all the terms, right? So knowing what the cash flow statement is and, you know, everything else that goes into the record keeping portion, a lot of them may not have that. And so do you do anything to kind of help them get that, you know, the paperwork that's necessary? Because one of my terms that I like to coin, like during the whole entire pandemic time, was get your paperwork together to make your paperwork, right? And so for me, that was always an important thing because when I looked at so many people that were trying to get loans or were trying to get grants, they didn't have the paperwork together. And so that then made the process so much longer, but that was their fault for not having the paperwork together. So do you do any type of, do you give them some forms or do you have like any training or anything like that where they can understand the forms that they need to have to give to you?
Yeah, so we do three things. So we do the capital piece, which is what I always talk about first. We also do coaching and connections. A lot of times that coaching piece is during the loan process. So helping them understand the paperwork pieces that we need. We do have templates that can help the small business owner. And then if they need more coaching or more assistance, we connect them to other nonprofits in the area that can assist them. When it comes to that accounting part, we understand that a lot of time the small business owners that we work with know how to work in the business and not all the time on the business. So what we're here to do is help you work on the business and then connect you to those folks that can help you work on the business as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing because, like I have an accountant and I just don't even know what I would do without my accountant because I do not want to do that part. You know what I'm saying? I like to make the money. I like to deposit the money. Those are my favorite things. But actually doing the rest of the paperwork. So it's just like, give that to the person who's really good at it. And I think that it does make a big difference. Like I remember when I got my first income statement, I was like, oh, look at all of my numbers. Hey, numbers, right? And it was just kind of one of those things that as I think a business owner, it makes you feel empowered because you can see everything, like on one sheet and you can really see like where you're doing well and where you need to improve. So with your business owners, I'm sure that there's a whole lot of different people that you're able to serve, but who is kind of like typically the business owner or what type of business typically comes to you in order to get capital?
Yeah, so a lot of times we work with those lifestyle businesses.
Okay.
So that would be your beauticians, your landscapers, your home cleaners. So those are a part of our small business owners. We also have restaurant owners. We typically can work with anyone who can utilize less than that $100,000 amount.
Okay.
To fill that gap. But a lot of times those are those lifestyle businesses and helping them understand this, they are business owners. Sometimes they're like, oh, I just cut hair or I just cut grass. And it's like, but you own the business. So helping them understand that piece in the process.
Yeah, definitely. Because we were at an event together and there was a person who seemed a little bit confused at the event in regards to them, having a license to be a beautician, which, in essence, if you are practicing and you're doing the business, then, you are 1099, right? Essentially, like, because you're taking care of your own thing. But if you didn't go through the process to file the taxes, then that's where one of those processes, it just kind of slipped through the cracks. And I know some people, are actually working for other people where maybe they're getting tips and, it's a whole bunch of different things that go into that. But if more people understood the business side of things, I think that would be really, really important. And so that's an interesting thing that you brought that up because we're going to be doing a beauty business summit at Alamance Community College coming up March 16th. And one of the points of that is to really say to people, understand that once you graduate, you are in business for yourself. And you need to act like you're in business. And so there are things that you need to kind of take into consideration. Now, this is a question that I know I didn't even ask you, but I have to just throw it at you. Have you found an uptick in people utilizing some of the online systems like Cash App and those kind of things, so that this way they can get their money, and I'm just saying that in relation to, PayPal has already been there, right? And you have Stripe and you have Square and stuff, but I've been seeing a lot more people use Cash App specifically when they're lifestyle businesses.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times though technology is growing, that it helps you access your capital a little bit faster. So we do see a lot of those systems being used in traditional business. The technology has also done some work to give out those bank statements, help you with those financials. A lot of them are trying to do it a lot in-house. So they'll not only take in your funds, but they'll also say, we can help you create these documents. So technology has changed in that space. And they're even like trying to get into the lending space as well. But I would say that you should be careful with that and knowing the rates behind the loans that you're taking, because a lot of times they're hidden fees and things of that nature. So making sure that you're informed in that process.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. Now, with if they're going to go with Thread Capital, is there a set interest rate, or does that interest rate vary based on the loans that you're giving out?
Yeah, so our loans have a set interest rate. Our interest rate is 10.99% for all of our loans.
Okay. Now, would you say that's higher or lower than like the industry average?
Yeah, so it is in terms of the industry average and the risk that we're taking. So some people say, woo, when I say that, and they're typically looking at the mere fact of like home loans, things of that nature, where the loans are a lot larger and the terms are a lot longer. And then also, if you're looking even in like auto loans, the collateral behind it is more secure. Our loans are not in that space, so the amount of risk that's taken is determined on our interest rate.
Okay. All right. Now, do people have to have collateral when they come to you to get loans?
No. So one of our things that I did not mention is our key audience are Black and brown entrepreneurs, women, low to moderate income individuals, and rural individuals. So a lot of times we understand that they may not have assets, which is part of the system that we live in. So we don't require that you have assets, but we do look at is try to term it towards the loan. So if you're looking for a $100,000 loan and you do have collateral, we will look at that. For those smaller loans, we're not requiring collateral, but for all of our loans, what we do is we require what's called a UCC, or a Universal Commercial Code document that just basically says that your business assets are used as collateral on this loan, so that loan is secured. Okay. So we look at the individual on what they own as collateral.
Okay. And then when you talk about the assets of the business, are these startup businesses, or they've been in business for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? What's usually the average that goes along with that? Because if I'm just starting, I might not have any money yet. So what's that process like?
Yeah. So we still would do with the startup, we would still do that UCC. Because it's not directly tied to the assets that you currently have. It's just saying that if something happens to the business, collateral is a secondary source of repayment. So we're saying that any assets that you secure over this time, it can be used. If we're doing a trucking loan, and we can use that truck as collateral. So we do it for all of our loans, and it just depends on what the size of the business is and the assets that they have.
I would just imagine that this is really a great thing. And I just want to commend you, because Kelly Barber over at Halifax Community College loves y'all to death. And when I'm telling you, Kelly was like, listen, Thread Capital, they lend to my people out here in the rural communities, right? And so I personally love the fact that not only are you in the big city, you know how the big city, right? But you do go to those rural communities and you are able to educate them. And so for people that don't know, Jalisha is going to be joining us on the 25th at the Women's Business Summit that's at Halifax. And so you guys will get to meet her in person that day. What is the most rewarding thing about being in person and being able to talk to people? Because we've been in the COVIDs for so long, right? So does it feel better? Is it different? You know, do people ask different questions?
I think it's definitely different. It's a more personal effect. So I get a lot more questions due to the fact that people online, they just kind of, even if their cameras are on, they kind of disconnect. So the best thing is like being in person, being able to answer those questions and helping people feel comfortable. A lot of times banking is scary. Accounting is scary. We've all been taught different things. And a lot of times people are not comfortable in that space. So I do enjoy the fact of being able to go out into those communities to show that we're here to support, and not only to support in that capital space, but saying, okay, cash may not be what you need right now. What connections do you need? I could be a part of your team. Doing that for our small business owners is a key piece, because a lot of times they are siloed and we don't want them to be siloed. And then even the point about rural, being out in rural communities, our lending is based out of the North Carolina Rural Center. Which is a 35-year-old organization that's done economic development in the rural counties. Right now, it's 78 rural counties. So we'll always have a focus on that space, making sure that we go out and we're reaching the people in the communities. We don't want to just be the folks in the big city, the folks in Raleigh that never go out. So we travel all the time. We're always all over the place, making sure that you know that we're not just that we're a part of the communities, that we want to see our impact. And I actually love to go out into the community because I can visit my small business owners where they are comfortable. So not just making them come into the seminar and come into the class and then talk to me about business, which could be scary. But I can come to your restaurant. I can come visit your salon. If you have a store, I want to come out to support, because that's a key piece of our connection as well, is not only saying I'm here to help, but it's also saying, okay, if you need these things, Chisa's throwing this great event, come to this. Or if you need connections or you need coaching, Kelly's at the Small Business Center and can help you. So a key thing that I like to do is making sure that we're connectors and not gatekeepers in this work. making sure that everyone knows that I know I do not know everything, but my goal is to try to learn it so that I can share it with everyone.
Yeah, no, I think that that's powerful because with your fund, specifically, and I've worked with some other, CDFIs and things throughout the state. And I would just say, to me, yours has been the most accessible. And I think that some of the barriers that you may have in some other areas, or other organizations, it's not seeming like that's something that's really that big of a problem for you. So when a person, and I would just imagine this is the list of the things that we need you to give us those things, and then let's go ahead and see what we can do to help you with your business. What is the turnaround time once the person gives you all the things you need from, that time to kind of making a decision on, okay, well, this is when we can get you some funding?
So overall, it's typically 3 to 4 weeks. So that is from the time you walk into my door to say, hey, I need capital. We gather those documents, and then we're able to make a decision and fund your loan within that 3 to 4 week period. Okay. I was super excited because I just did a loan and was able to close it within 22 days. So I made it exactly on. And a lot of times it's having that paperwork to make your paperwork. If you have your things together, we can move faster because a lot of time it is gathering your information. Since you send those documents over, we review it as quick as possible. And there's sometimes we may need additional things. So gathering that piece is super key.
And they can find all of the information for what they need to get the loan on your website.
Yep, they can find it at grantcap.org.
Yeah. And so this way, guys, it's no excuses, Now, the only thing that I would say would be a barrier is if you don't have something. So that means, go ahead and get it. And I always tell people, listen, go look to see what the requirements are. And then I tell them, please have your stuff in a digital format and then also have it in your hand, because then this way it makes it easy. And I also tell people save things as PDFs, because then when you go to send it, like that's the necessity. And like going through COVID and just seeing, from the back end of certain things, it was people that didn't know how to save stuff as a PDF, right? And so it was a lot of like, okay, then you actually even have to train people on that. So a lot of times with the technology, we want to assume people know things, but they don't always know things. And so something as simple as that could be the barrier as to why a person didn't know or didn't upload something. And so it does make a difference, especially when you need a completed package in order to be able to go and do your part of things. Now, we had a comment that said being in person makes a huge difference, and share the wealth we can all eat. Okay, you better give us that commentary. Come on in here. So they're loving it. So the biggest thing I would say is I want to know about a success story that you had. Somebody that came in, because you mentioned being able to go see what they do. Who's been, and you don't have to tell us their name unless you want to, but what's been one of the most successful stories that you've had with lending so far?
So it always ranges because it depends on like the small business owner and what their goal is. One of my favorite is like one of our things we like to do, because one of the things you were talking about is we're accessible. When we look at the lending ladder, sometimes banks and things are a lot higher. Sometimes our clients are not even at the ladder at all. So they're on the ground still. And our goal is to kind of help them climb that ladder and then also understand that there is a ladder and helping them in that process. So some of my favorite clients are those that come into the process. They're trying to start a business. They don't know where to, like they have a business idea. They don't have the capital for it. They don't have an aunt or uncle that can give them that loan. They've been told no a couple of times. They go to the bank says no. So they come to us, and then even just talking on the phone with them, they're able to say, I can say, okay, we can't do it right now. But if you work on these things, we can get you to where you need to be. Okay. So walking them through that part, just to hear their voice light up when I can say like, okay, we can do that. We can do a smaller loan and help them grow. So I have clients that return to us in process. So sometimes we'll start with a smaller loan. We may start with a $2,500 loan. They get that loan. We help them grow. They come back. So I have one business who was a cleaning business. He originally had a loan from another lender to do her business, but she didn't know she needed additional like worker comp insurance. So she had to get that piece, and it was only, I think it was $1,000. And everyone that she was trying to get $1,000 from was like, we can't do that. So I was able to help her get that $1,000 loan to keep her contract. She had a government contract, and she needed the insurance to happen with the end. So this is one of the time I was able to do a loan faster than that 3 weeks. We were able to get it done like a week and a half.
Okay.
So we got her the $1,000 loan so that she can pay her insurance premium. And then she was able to finish that contract. Mm-hmm. In that process, it was learning about like, what is a P&L? What is a cash flow statement? What are the things that I need for this business? Mm-hmm. Fast forward 2 years later, she was able to return to us for a $20,000 loan because she was looking to buy a truck, a van to like haul her equipment.
Yes.
Doing that piece was like, okay, look at you grow, and helping them in that process and being a part of that process, knowing that, yes, we can help you start, we can help you grow. And then sometimes we even have to send them to a partner and saying like, they need more than $900,000. They're trying to buy a business, a building. They're trying to buy a piece of equipment that's outside of our space. And
that's great.
Them in that space.
No, that's great because I mean that right there. Okay, so let's just say one, right? Year one, we're at $1,000. 2 years later, now we're sitting here, we can get 20,000, but our business warranted. Like that's an amazing story. So I think just that, because I've been really focused on specifically this year, incremental growth. Because I think that, and I'm just talking about me, I can't speak for anybody else, but, in the past, I think sometimes you wanted so much, like you wanted to grow so fast, you wanted to do all the things. And then when you start to really focus on your capacity and really say, well, listen, how about I don't do all the things, but I do these things, and let me just do these things really well. And it doesn't have to be so big. And so this year, my word was achievement. And so I've been celebrating every achievement, like you don't even understand. I'm like, oh yeah, I did that, right? And it's something so simple, like I sent an email, but I'm like, woo, that email is done, right? And so I think that a lot of times with business, we want to get to that big number, but you might need to, just focus on the smaller things right now and then continue to grow. And so that's a great story of being able to do that. And especially if you can get a government contract, unless you mess it up, you usually are going to be able to get another one. So that's an important thing. But I think that you brought up an important factor when you talked about like things that people don't think about, like insurance, right? Or some people may need to be licensed and bonded, I mean, it's so many other little pieces depending on what you're doing for business that you might overlook. And it might only cost a little bit in the big scope of things, but if you don't have it, it's a lot, right? And so you being able to fill that gap is definitely an important factor for businesses. I love that. Now, let's transition a little bit because we are both on the Durham team for Black Wall Street Forward. And so we're going to be talking about money mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And so with this experience, you've been able to meet some new people. What do you say is like your best part of being a part of this initiative?
I think meeting new people. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is network so that we can have those resources for our small business owners. Mm-hmm. So looking at meeting new folks as well as connecting with them and seeing how to best play into their work. One of the things you said is like, I don't want to be able to do everything. I'm okay being the lending force. Mm-hmm. And then saying, okay, this person's over here doing Black Wall Street. They're doing that. Chisa can do really well at event planning. So being able to build out that collaboration, building out that ecosystem and supporting that ecosystem is super important to me. And I've loved that piece of working with like the Black Wall Street Council is helping to build out my ecosystem in Durham.
Yeah. I mean, and at the same time, I would just imagine you are literally all over the place. Like Jalisha will send you a message and be like, girl, I'm in Timbuktu, North Carolina. And then the next day, but next week. And then, when you send her a message, she'd be like, I'm out of the office until this time. And I'm like, that girl stays moving. Right. And so I would just imagine you've seen so many parts of North Carolina. What's your favorite part of your job?
I think being able to see the reason I travel is I told my supervisor when he first started, mm-hmm. I don't want to be in the office. I want to be able to see the small businesses where they are. Like mm-hmm. the paperwork part, I do it just because it needs to be done for the organization. I want to be able to see those folks that I'm assisting. I want to be able to see them grow. I want to be able to see their businesses transition. So I travel a lot, even though it makes it harder for me to do my work. I put in that commitment to travel so that I can see the work and always be inspired. Like small business owners are inspiring to me. I will support you to the day I die, but I do not want to be a small business owner. So like in that space, what I do is like, I try to figure out what are their needs. And I understand that like Northeast North Carolina is a lot different than Central North Carolina and different from like the western part of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So you have to be in those areas to know that and to build that trust and build those relationships. Mm-hmm. So I intentionally do that piece to get our name out there as well, because people don't know about alternative funding sources like Thread Capital. Mm-hmm. So my goal is to get out there to show that we can do this work. And then also that, like, we talk about women. There's not a lot of women in my role. There's not a lot of African Americans in my role. So going out and showing that we can support in this space. And then folks that look like you can do this, because that also makes people a lot more comfortable seeing folks that look like them doing the work. So I'm very intentional about that place of going out, being the voice, being able to learn what they need to share that with them.
Yeah, well, what I've seen is, and I've only seen, so now from your team that I know, 3 people, all of them are dynamic women, right? And so, does it make it easier on your team to work with other women and then also to work with other minority women?
Yes. So what we've tried to do, and what we try not to make our team too large, but what we want to do is make our team reflect the communities that we're working in. Mm-hmm. So our team is very diverse. Because one, that helps our clients know that we're here to support, not saying that if your specific demographic is not on our team, we're not willing to help that demographic. Mm-hmm. But having folks that look like you definitely impacts your usage to the organization. Mm-hmm. So we try to do that piece and making sure that we're supporting those that need the support. We don't want to just say that we lend in the alternative space and then we're not hitting that community. Mm-hmm. And a key piece of that is looking like the community that you want to support.
Yeah, and I think that's important because a lot of times when you think of lending, you typically think of white men. And it's nothing wrong with that, because if they're going to give you the money, then they're going to give you the money, right? But at the same time, in my experience, I've noticed that people that are not a part of the community often don't understand certain businesses and necessity and the importance of certain things. So it may seem like it's something that's an ancillary thing, but no, it's a really important thing when it comes to the community. And just understanding that does make a huge difference. And so I love that because, being able to reflect that community means that it does make people more comfortable, right? Now, we have another comment that says, I love working with women who look like me. There's something special about having that first touch point of potential understanding. And that is great. So thank you so much, Dr. Renita. She's out here commenting today. And I mean, it really is an important factor. I do think it definitely makes people feel like they can approach you, right? Like it feels more comfortable. All right. So with that, if you want to leave people, they've never heard about Thread Capital, they want to meet you now that they've heard about this, and you want to leave them with like a last idea or a thought or, just something to make people feel good. So it could be motivational. I don't know. Feel like whatever you want to say. What would that thing be for our aspiring and our current business owners?
I think the thing I would say is you don't have to know it all. We want to be your connector. We want to be a part of your process. So we're always here to assist. If it's questions about capital or connections, we're here to just reach out to us. We want to help build out your ecosystem and do that work intentionally.
Oh, wow. And I love the way you put that. She said, we want to build out your ecosystem. And you know what? That's a really great way to look at it, because I love the business ecosystem that we have here in the state as an overall. But just traveling all over the state, I've been able to see the same thing as you, that it is very different in different parts. And that connectivity that you have to those resources does make a huge difference in you being, and I'm saying you, as in you, individual business owner, you, individual entrepreneur, being able to access things, because we have not, because we know not. If we don't know it even exists, then how, So like, it's probably plenty of people that are like, wow, I'm so glad to hear about Thread Capital. And the fact that you can lend throughout the state does mean that now it gives people more access to things that they didn't think about. So where can people find you if they're saying, give me some money, Jalisha?
Yes. So our website is threadcap, so THREADCAP.org. We're also on Instagram and social media, all of it under Thread Capital as well. And then my email is Jalisha, so my first name @threadcap.org. Please reach out and I can get you to where you need to be.
Yes, I love that. I love that. All right. So we will see each other really soon on the 18th when we do our event. And so I'm excited and looking forward to that. And so everybody, if you're interested in finding out more about that event, you can go to Eventbrite and you can type in Black Wall Street Forward. I have it on my website at giveit2thepeople.com. And it's going to definitely, it's already over social media, but you can definitely look for it all over social media. And you'll see our little brown faces up there smiling, waiting to welcome you on the 18th. And so join us on that date at the NC Mutual Building in Durham, North Carolina. And we're going to be doing that event, our Black Wall Street Mindset, from 11 until 2. It is free and open to the public. And we would love to have you come out, and then you can meet us individually. You can meet our whole council, and then you can see how you can get involved in a little bit more business for your business, right? Because we have all of those connections. So Jalisha, thank you so much for being on today. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, all of your efforts. And so we'll be talking more, and we'll be making some more announcements, but we can't tell everybody everything yet.
Yes.
We'll be making some more announcements sometime soon. All right. Thank you. Yes. All right, everybody, make sure that you always show up and show out and continue to give it to the people. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Give It to the People Live. We're here to help you with your mental wealth. And if you're looking for future events, you're looking for past podcast episodes, you're looking for our webinars, or anything that can help you grow your business acumen, make sure that you visit giveit2thepeople.com.